Hey everybody out there, you're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan. You're in my corner, and I have a very special guest that you've been waiting for all day in the corner. Would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners out there?
Hi, I'm Petrea Burchard.
And it's very nice to have you on the show. I apologize for the tech difficulties, but that's the fun of technology.
Yeah. Well, we're learning something new today, or at least I am.
That's true. Is this your first time using Skype?
No, it's not my first, but we really only Skype with the in-laws. So it's my first Skype interview.
Definitely. I can understand that.
Yeah.
And now, before we get into the anime portion and your writing and everything else, I want to ask you the basics of the basic question, which is,
Okay.
what piqued your interest into acting?
Oh my gosh. I started acting when I was a tiny kid, like 3 or 4 years old. And I think maybe I probably liked it because people were paying attention to me and people clapped for me, stuff like that. You know, when you're 3 or 4, you're cute. So I probably just liked all the attention. And, you know, once you do it a couple of times, you get bitten by the bug if you're at all inclined. And I got bitten at a very young age. So I just was determined from the start that I was going to do it.
I can understand that. I thought I would be an actor myself, and then I found this, and I was like, well, my ego gets fed this way just fine. So I'll just keep doing this.
Radio's great. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I mean, you get to interact with new people every day, and the listeners are great because it's interactive.
Oh,
so that's what I really love about it.
yeah.
And now, in terms of acting, were you in theater and school, or did you take any classes? What was the next step?
Yeah, I did. I did plays in school all the way through grade school and high school. And when I went to college, I minored in theater. I thought I needed something to fall back on. That was what we did back then. I don't know if people still do that. So, of course, I majored in rhetoric, you know, because there are so many jobs in rhetoric. And that was my degree. And when I went to school in Illinois because that's where I grew up, and I moved to Chicago after I graduated. And I started pursuing an acting career there. And I worked on the stage, mostly there, although I did a few commercials. And I worked at the Second City in Chicago in the National Touring Company. That's all improvisation and comedy. That was a lot of fun. And I also did plays at the Victory Gardens Theater in Chicago. And I also did my first voiceover work in Chicago. So when I moved out here to the Los Angeles area, I had a good stage and theater resume and the beginnings of a voiceover resume, and started trying to break into the business here. And that was a little over 20 years ago.
And now, was it difficult to approach the LA market? I mean, there's so much competition in LA today. I don't know necessarily about 20 years ago.
Yeah. Yes, it was. And I think, I don't know if there are any young actors listening. What I didn't understand back then was that talent was not everything. I was talented, but a lot of people are. And I didn't realize that I needed more than just talent. I really needed a business sense and a business plan, and I didn't have that. I just kind of, you know, showed up in LA and thought, okay, I'm going to work. But I didn't really know how, and I didn't know anything about LA. So it took me a long time to learn how it's done here, how to go about it in a business-like fashion, and how to break in. That was my learning curve. That was a hard one.
I think that's something that a lot of, specifically, you know, fans of anime who want to just be voice actors in anime, tend not to realize because, you know, you need to have a bunch of trades. That way you're not just making money from anime, which is very difficult to do, I hear.
Yes, it is. If I'm honest with you, I'll tell you that just anime in and of itself does not pay very well. You have to have more than you just got to do more than one thing. I think if people want to work in the voice acting business, they have to do commercials. And commercials do pay pretty well.
Mhm.
But you might want to also try radio plays, in which case you need to train as an actor as well as a voice person. You need to train your voice and the rest of your instrument, which is your body and your acting skills.
So for you, where did anime come into the picture?
I've only done the one anime,
Mhm.
which is why it's such an honor to have lucked into the character of Ryoko in the Tenchi Muyo series, because that really hit a chord for a lot of people. And the way that happened, now that I've told you that you have to have a business plan and you have to know what you're doing, this was a total stroke of luck. I happened to be friends with Matt Miller, who played Tenchi, and his wife at the time was one of the producers on the project. And so she got a hold of people that she knew and people that she had heard of, and she asked us all to send in an audition tape. So we did, and we sent them to her. There were other producers on the project. One that was our main producer was Miyoko Mura, who has, I think, since moved back to Japan. But she and Miyoko and whoever was directing in the beginning, we ended up with Jack Fletcher, who's been a very famous director in the anime business. But he wasn't our director in the beginning. But the producers chose who they wanted, and fortunately they chose me to play Ryoko. And I wouldn't have even had a chance to audition had I not been friends with Matt from our Chicago days.
That's actually kind of nice, though.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, and they say it's who you know, and it is, but it had to have been a good audition. They don't hire you just because they know you, but you have to be good, but you don't get the audition unless they know you as well. I think that's kind of how that worked anyway.
Well, I think it's very hard for the listeners and myself specifically to be able to hear Ryoko with any other voice. So I'm sure it was based off of your audition and what you brought to the table.
Thank you. I had such a fantastic time playing that part. It was really, really a lot of fun.
And you got to be very, I guess, active is the best word to describe her, because she's so moody. She's so sweet one moment and sex kitten another, and then she's trying to tear your head off.
She runs the gamut, doesn't she? And in very few other parts do that. You're either, this is kind of the thing, especially in TV, which was the main career that I was pursuing at the time. You are one thing. You're either, the smart lawyer or the quiet nurse, or, you're very specific in TV. The kinds of roles that I was getting were not lead roles. They were supporting roles. And so they were really specific. Ryoko, though, she could be anything. And yet she was still, you knew her. It wasn't like you didn't recognize the character. Everything was in character for her, though. Just, she could get away with anything. That was fun.
And now with that sort of show, that was during the time of sort of the anime boom in the 90s. Did you notice how many fans were really into a show like that? Did you kind of get a sense of, oh wow, this many people are watching?
At first I had no idea what I was getting into. I had no clue that this was going to be anything that people would latch on to. And, excuse me, we did a few episodes, and then the producers took us out to lunch and asked if we would mind doing a video interview about our characters. And that thing is still online. It's so awful. I just hate it, but I see it all the time. Was done in about 1995, and we're all sitting around this table in a restaurant, and they interspersed the interviews with the American cast with interviews with the Japanese cast. And I don't hate it because the other actors look weird, but I look so weird in that thing. I don't know why. It just really bothered me. But, it's out there and people can see it. And we were talking about our characters, and I thought nobody's ever going to see this thing. And then I started getting mail, snail mail, because that was 1995. And fans wrote to Pioneer, who was the owner of the project at that time, and then Pioneer would forward the mail to us. And that was so nice that every once in a while I'd get a letter from a fan. And then people started having email, and I started getting email, and I was getting it all the time. And it sort of gradually picked up. It wasn't immediate. But the thing is, it's 16 years later, and I'm still getting email. And I'm getting, people friend me on Facebook, and I just got a message last night from somebody who said they missed me as Ryoko, and that's so sweet. I had no idea that people would care and that they would still care, even now. Oh my God, you're interviewing me. It's 16 years later. That's just amazing. I don't really even now understand what it is about Tenchi Muyo that touched people so deeply, but they grew up with it, and they still love it. I don't know, maybe you can tell me, Jackie, why.
I think that is sort of the basis of it, though, is that that was for a lot of people like their gateway anime, the thing that got them into a hobby that some people have turned into careers. Some people have, spent thousands of dollars on, but there's always that first anime you get into, or the first few that you rush home to watch. You're running off the school bus and you're like, gotta get home. So I think that for a lot of fans out there, those are memories for them that they keep with them because that made up their childhood.
You know what was the greatest thing? I record voiceovers every week for a local grocery store chain, the Stater Brothers Markets, and they are fantastic, and I love them very much, and really good people. And every week I go to the same studio in Los Angeles. It's called Bell Sound, and I love all the people there. And last week, they record voiceovers and music. It's a sound studio. And I went there last week, and I met a guy named Kyle Hebert. Kyle, you know Kyle?
Oh, yes, we do.
Of course you do. Well, years ago, I met Kyle online. He wrote to me as a fan and interviewed me for his website. So I walk in, I see my regular engineer, Aaron, and he says, "Oh, Petrea, this is Kyle Hebert." And I looked at him and said, "I know Kyle. Kyle, how are you?" I was meeting him in person after all these years. He had gotten into the business, and now he's this big anime guy. So I think maybe exactly what you said is true. Something, not just Tenchi, but all of it, really got a hold of him, and he made it his business. And he was in Texas, I think, back in the beginning, and now he's in LA, and he's made it big.
Yeah, I believe he started in Texas doing like Radio Disney, and then he made the move to LA and has been doing more video games lately.
Yeah, I have his card right here. Kyle Hebert, it's Hebert for those who don't know. Very French, but of course he's very American. KyleHebert.com.
And that's
what a great guy.
Really cute, actually, to think that you would see a fan like that grow into a big anime guy like that. I'm going to have to bug him about that next time I see him.
Well, he's way bigger in anime than I am or than I ever was, He's done a ton of different voices, and he's a big shot. That's really cool.
I think that's cool, too, and I think that's the perfect time to take a break here on 91.8 The Fan. But don't go anywhere, because our special guest isn't going anywhere. I promise I won't chase her away. I swear. So keep it tuned to 91.8 The Fan. Everything you want and nothing you don't.
Hi, I'm the Celtic Guardian, but you guys can call me Dave. When I'm not busy being sacrificed in order to summon monsters that are halfway useful, I like to listen to 918 The Fan, one of the hottest online radio shows on the worldwide internet highway. Did I mention I have like 1,400 attack points? That's a big deal in my world, Plus, I have a sword. Does the Blue Eyes White Dragon have a sword? No. Fuck the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Seriously.
Hey, everybody out there listening on your iThingies and your pads and your PS, PlayStation, jiggers. You're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan, and you're in my corner. My special guest is still here. Would you like to give him a sign of life?
Hi.
She's still alive. I told you I wasn't
so
going to chase her away. And now, one thing I wanted to touch upon for the fans out there is your website. We were talking a little bit about that behind the scenes. Would you like to direct them and tell them what they can find there?
Sure. It's PetreaBurchard.com, and in case you don't know how to spell it, because it is kind of a strange spelling, I guess, it's PetreaBurchard.com. And you can also find me on Facebook, friend me on Facebook. I'd love to meet you. And it's just Petrea Burchard. I also have a Facebook business page called Petrea Burchard Inc. because these days I'm pursuing writing more than acting and enjoying that immensely because I don't have to wear makeup. I can stay home and sit at the computer and write my stories and my thoughts. But if you go to my website, you can find links to all of that, my writings and my Facebook page and my blog, which I've been doing almost 4 years, and it's a daily blog. It's a daily photo blog about my city of Pasadena, which is a real hoot and a lot of fun.
Oh, wow, that's where my mom lived for the majority of her life. Yes. Small world.
It is just not really that big of a town. Maybe I know her.
No.
Talk about that off here.
Yeah, that's true. But searching through your website, one thing that I found really interesting is you have right on the front about Camelot and Vine.
Yes.
And that sounded really interesting. Would you like to explain the synopsis to the listeners out there?
Okay, well, Camelot and Vine is a novel. It's my first novel, and it hasn't been published yet, so I'm in the midst or in the throes or in the process of looking for an agent and a publisher for it. It's a story about Casey, who's an actress who's got a little problem with, honesty, and she fantasizes about King Arthur, kind of taking her away from it all. And unfortunately for her, that's exactly what happens. But it's not exactly how she pictured it. And he's a guy who demands honesty and fidelity. It's the first thing he asks of her, and it's the one thing that she has a real hard time giving. So it's her adventures with King Arthur, and she has lessons to learn. And if she doesn't learn them, she isn't going to make it back alive. So that's kind of how the story goes.
Well, I read the snippet of that on the website, and I was immediately pulled into it, and I wanted to read more. So I can't wait until you actually do get to publish it.
I hope so. On the site, I'm not sure if I'll change this or not because I'm still messing with the site. The site's pretty new. It's only been up for a couple of weeks. And right now, there's a scene that takes place at LAX, Los Angeles International Airport, before she actually goes. When I say goes, I mean before the accident happens that takes her back in time to the days of King Arthur. So I'm toying with the possibility of putting up a different scene, a different chapter, but that's the one that's up there right now. Hopefully the book is funny and dramatic and exciting at the same time.
Well, it definitely caught my interest, and for anybody out there, I think anime fans will really enjoy it themselves as well, since it's got sort of a fantasy vibe to it, and especially if you like, kind of far out sort of plots that have what seemed to me pretty in-depth characters. Like, I wanted to know more about Casey.
Yeah. It's definitely a fantasy adventure, a modern woman who travels back in time. And am I still online? Oh, okay, good.
You're still here.
For a second, I saw this little thing on my screen that said, sign me in. And I thought, does that mean I've signed out? No more technical difficulties, please. Yeah, so well, I hope people will check it out and let me know what you think. I think right now on the site, I have to fix the contact page. There's a contact thing that says if you're an agent, you can email me. Ignore that. If you're a person, you can email me, and I'll be happy to hear from you. And also, friend me on Facebook. I'll be happy to be in touch. And Twitter, too. Follow me on Twitter. All that
Definitely.
Stuff. Yeah.
And for the fans out there that don't just want to talk to you, over the computer, you're actually going to appear at a convention soon. Isn't that right?
Yes. Thank you for mentioning that. Oh, yes, the Pacific Media Expo. I'll be there on November 13th. Oh, if you're a Tenchi fan. This is really cool because it's the Ladies of Tenchi Muyo reunion. Let me get that information on my screen here because I want to get all the names for you so we have everything. It's November 13th. Sherry Lynn, Rebecca Forstadt, and it seems to me that one other is also going to be there. It's
Ellen Gerstel, I think it is.
Ellen Gerstel, thank you. That's going to be November 13th, Sunday, and I believe it's at noon. It's at the LAX Hilton, Los Angeles International Airport Hilton. You can go to pacificmediaexpo.com, or you can also find Pacific Media Expo on Facebook. And I hope that's everything. They're also PMX News, PM as in Mary, X News on Twitter. Follow them on Twitter and just keep up with all the information because the Pacific Media Expo is huge. It's more than just the Ladies of Tenchi Muyo. It's Pacific Media, all kinds of anime, and they've got incredible guests all weekend long. So it'll be a great event.
How do you feel being invited to a convention for a show that's, came out at, 16 years ago, I believe?
Oh, my. That's a good question. I haven't gone to a lot of conventions, mostly because I haven't been invited to very many. I've been invited to 2 before this one. The first one was in the very beginning, before anybody had ever heard of Tenchi. We went and did an event down at in Anaheim. There was a big, I think it was Comic-Con in the beginnings of that. And that was maybe 1995 or 96. And the Japanese cast came. That was really cool. Excuse me. And then, seems like about 10 years ago, there was a convention in Lancaster, California. And they invited me and I came up. I just drove up. And that's the last one I did. And then Pacific Media Expo just invited me out of the blue, and I thought, oh, that's just great. It's local. I can go. And but those are sometimes fans invite me, but unless the convention invites me, I don't know what the etiquette is. I don't feel like I can just invite myself. I can't just call up the organizers and say, hey, can I come? So this is the first time the organizers have invited me in a long time, and I'm just excited because it seems like there's this sort of resurgence of interest in Tenchi. Is that true? Is that what's happening?
It could be because a lot of the anime that's coming out today is sort of one note. It's being labeled moe blob anime, so it's just shows trying to be cute or trying to flash fan service. So I think a lot of fans might be trying to watch older anime to feel something a little bit more than, oh, whoops, you saw my panties. Because that's sort of the trend of today.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I remember when they first put Tenchi Muyo on the Cartoon Network. And they had to put little swimsuits on our characters. There were scenes when they were in the Japanese baths and stuff, and they never had clothes on in those scenes. And they, for maybe not for Adult Swim, but I think on American TV, even though they're just cartoon characters, and they weren't drawn in great detail, but they still had to put little swimsuits on them.
Well, you don't want angry parents calling
Yeah.
the station and being like, why are they naked on TV?
Yeah.
You know.
It wasn't, Ryoko wasn't one to worry about panties. Yeah, I think that's good. They had to paint swimsuits on them. I think that was important, but yeah, I get what you're saying about the difference. I have not, to be perfectly honest, and I hope this doesn't hurt anybody's feelings, but I have not watched a lot of anime myself in the last few years. So I haven't marked the trends.
Well, that's understandable. I mean, I do this, and people are really surprised when I tell them I haven't seen an anime since 2009 because I spend so much time doing this or making sure everything's working that I just don't have time to watch the anime.
Yeah, I can understand that. Huh.
And now, for the listeners out there, is there anything else you'd want to say to them specifically?
Oh, gosh. Yes, I do. I want to say thank you to the fans of Tenchi Muyo and Ryoko. It's such an honor having fans. If you're Brad Pitt or Lady Gaga, you may get a little tired of having fans. But when you're not, the biggest star on the planet, it's such an honor that people care about the work that you do and write to you to tell you that they like what you did. It's really, people who are fans of Tenchi Muyo have been so kind and so respectful and sent such pleasant notes and said such nice things over years, over 15, 16 years, that I just can't thank you all enough. It's delightful to hear from you. And I guess that's it.
And now, since we're nearing the end of this interview, I was wondering if you'd like to participate in a 91.8 The Fan tradition.
Oh, yes. And if you think I don't know what it is, you're wrong, Missy. I'm ready.
Oh, somebody did their research.
Oh, I always do.
Nobody ever does that. Everybody always, is like, what are you talking about? I think you're one of the first people out there who knows exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, I asked Chris to send me links to some interviews, and I listened to them. I wanted to know what you do, and I looked at the site. I love the site. It's fantastic.
Oh,
I also want to mention I love the artwork on the site. Really nice. So, yeah, I'm ready.
Well, then if you're all ready, I guess we'll do take one.
Okay. Hi, my name is Petrea Burchard, and I was the original English voice of Ryoko in the classic anime Tenchi Muyo. You're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan.
No bloopers, no nothing. We put you on the spot and you were prepared. I love it.
I wrote it down because I knew I'd never remember it.
Well, if it makes you feel better, most people write it down. Or they confuse the numbers. I think actually an interview I had last week with Chris Kaysen, he said 91.6. I don't know where he got the 6 from, but everyone makes up their own versions.
I had a little moment of panic while we were talking earlier, thinking, oh my God, what did I do with that piece of paper? But I found it.
Well, I'm happy you were prepared. And is there any other reminders you want to give the listeners, like your website or Facebook or Twitter?
Well, I think we already did that. So, I don't want to bore them and make them listen to that twice, right?
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Should I do that? I don't know.
Well, then you can always
everything's on my website, and that's petreaburchard.com. So I hope you'll stop by there and say hello.
And keep us updated for the convention. Tell us if you had a good time or not, and we'll let the listeners know, or maybe you'll update your website with a blog post about it.
Okay, absolutely, I will. Thank you very much.
And for anybody,
pleasure talking to you guys today.
This has been wonderful. Thank you so much. You definitely brought out the childhood memories in me. And for anybody out there who missed any of this interview, don't fret. It'll be up on the website soon. So thank you once again.
Thank you.